She walked into the bank with her head high, clutching a small envelope that held everything she had worked for. It was supposed to be a proud moment, her first major deposit, earned through months of discipline and late nights. But the smiles behind the counter faded the second they looked at her. Eyes narrowed, whispers spread. Within minutes, the word fraud was floating through the air like a verdict already decided. They didn't see a hard-working teenager. They saw suspicion. They saw doubt. And they were ready to call security. What they didn't know was that this quiet accusation was about to unravel more than just their assumptions. Because the girl they tried to humiliate wasn't who they thought she was, and the truth would leave the entire bank speechless. The real question is, how far can prejudice go before it destroys the very people who hold it? Aaliyah Thompson was 16, disciplined beyond her years, and determined to build something of her own. While most of her classmates spent weekends scrolling through their phones or wandering through malls, she spent hers designing custom sneakers and selling them online. Every order meant another late night, another careful brushstroke, another package sealed with pride. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just wanted independence. Her mother had always told her that if you worked twice as hard, you could stand twice as tall. Aaliyah believed that. She believed in doing everything the right way, registering her small business, tracking her sales, saving her earnings. The bank on Jefferson Avenue had always felt official and secure, with its marble floors and tall glass windows reflecting the afternoon sun. It was where her family kept their accounts. It was where she opened her first savings fund as a child. Walking in that afternoon felt like stepping into the next chapter of her life. She wore her favorite blue blazer, wanting to look confident, responsible. She waited patiently in line, rehearsing in her mind how proud she would feel seeing that deposit slip printed. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The line moved slowly. The air hummed with printers and quiet conversations. But when she finally reached the counter and slid the envelope across, the teller's smile paused, just for a second. Her eyes flicked to the amount, then back to Aaliyah. Another glance. A slight frown. It was subtle, almost invisible. But Aaliyah felt it. The teller didn't touch the envelope immediately. Instead, she studied the check as though it were suspicious by nature. She typed something into her computer, stopped, and typed again. The seconds stretched uncomfortably. She called another employee over. They whispered. Both of them looked at Aaliyah, then back at the screen. Aaliyah calmly explained that the deposit came from her online sales. She offered to show invoices and digital receipts. She pulled up her storefront on her phone. Everything was legitimate, organized, transparent, but their expressions only grew tighter. The teller rolled her chair back. She said they would need to hold the check and ask a few questions. The word hold echoed in Aaliyah's chest. She had done nothing wrong. Yet the tone had shifted completely. Another employee disappeared into a back office. Customers in line began to stare. A suited manager stepped out, his expression unreadable. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't smile. He simply asked where she really got the money. The word really landed like an accusation. She repeated her explanation, steady but firm. The manager's eyes scanned her from head to toe, lingering as though trying to reconcile her appearance with the numbers on his screen. Then he said it clearly, loudly enough for others to hear. "We have reason to believe this check may be fraudulent." Fraudulent. The word rang through the lobby. A security guard drifted closer. Not touching her, but close enough to send a message. Aaliyah felt heat rush to her face. People stepped aside as if something shameful was unfolding. Phone subtly lifted. Whispers circled. She asked what reason they had. No one gave a clear answer. Just vague references to protocol. Concerns. Verification. The manager mentioned contacting authorities to sort this out. Authorities. For depositing her own earnings. Her hands trembled, not from guilt, but from humiliation. Months of honest work reduced to suspicion in minutes. Beneath it all was a truth she could feel but no one would admit. They didn't believe someone like her could earn that amount. The manager instructed an employee to pull up the account's ownership records. He was determined to get to the bottom of this. She felt small, exposed. The room fell into a heavy silence as he typed. Click after click echoed in the quiet lobby. His eyes scanned the screen. Then suddenly his movements slowed. He blinked, refreshed the page, checked again. The manager stopped typing. The color drained from his face. The account was directly connected to the majority stakeholder of the bank's holding company. Her father. The same institution, threatening to call the police, was owned by the man whose last name she carried. The manager looked up at her, and this time there was no suspicion in his eyes, only realization. The security guard stepped back. The whisper stopped. In a single instant, the power dynamic shifted. Aaliyah hadn't changed. Her story hadn't changed. The only thing that changed was what they now knew about her connection to power. The manager straightened his jacket and delivered a stiff apology. Words about misunderstandings and procedures filled the air. The deposit was processed immediately. Smiles returned, but they felt forced and fragile. Aaliyah accepted the receipt calmly. But inside, something had cracked. She walked out of the bank the same way she entered, head high, shoulders back. Yet the pride she had carried in was no longer untouched. They had only reconsidered when they realized who her father was, when they understood she was connected to ownership, to authority. Later, meetings were held. Policies were reviewed. Promises of bias training and accountability were made. On paper, change began. But Aaliyah couldn't forget how quickly she had been labeled. She kept thinking about one haunting question. If her father hadn't owned that bank, how far would it have gone? Would police lights have flashed outside? Would her name have been whispered in headlines instead of hallways? Would her confidence have been shattered under the weight of public suspicion? She made her deposit that day. But she also made a decision to speak about what happened, to remind people that dignity should never depend on proximity to power. Because this wasn't just about one bank. It was about how easily ambition can be mistaken for criminal intent when it comes in the wrong skin. And the real question is this: how many more young dreams will be questioned before we finally learn to see effort instead of assumption?